Aside from culture, our children in our classroom are going to be diverse in their language or their linguistics. And I want to make sure that everyone understands the language that you'll be reading in textbooks, in online in articles, because there's several ways that we can communicate or label linguistically diverse students. So if we start in this first box, ELL learners are the acronym for English language learners. ESL learners are English as a second language. CLD students are culturally and linguistically diverse students, and LEP students are limited English proficiency students. All of these learners are basically the same thing. They're students where their first language is not English. So they are proficient in another language and they will be learning English in our classrooms. This is also known as being a dual language learner because they are acquiring their language and they're also acquiring English at the same time. Linguistic diversity is the language that the child feels most comfortable in communicating, and this will not be the language of the instruction at school. But what we find based on research is linguistically diverse students actually learn best when they continue learning in their native language, and we don't push them to learn in English. And this makes sense. You keep learning in your native language. But at some point, we have to teach them English, and we have to take their instruction from their native language to our English language. And when this happens, teachers need to emphasize to families the importance of continuing that home language at home, because then they can continue communicating in the language they're comfortable with. They can continue learning at home and reading books and communicating and growing their vocabularies with their families in that home language. And eventually, when they're proficient in English, that will transfer all of that language from their native language, and all of our English will bridge together. So based on that research, we want families to continue learning and speaking in their native language at home, and then we'll be learning English on the side. And it's important that we know that in our classrooms, and we don't tell families to not allow the child to speak in their native language at home.